Hello there. Um, this is going to be kind of like an off the cuff. I've been kind of ruminating for a couple hours. Um, I'm upset. I'm already hitting the microphone. Good God. Um, Unscripted as usual with me. Uh, Improvisation act. No, I'm really upset. Um, those of you who watch Pro and Noob on the Mitch692 channel, you guys will be seeing on Friday the episode he and I recorded tonight. Um, where I say in the episode that literally moments before sitting down to record, and that was a few hours ago, I had seen the news that the Acolyte has been canceled, and I am bummed. um, as is the case with this sort of thing, I kind of want to go to the source and kind of work backwards from there. So I'm gonna throw this up on screen. You know, I don't often do breaking news videos. It's something I've wanted to do for a while. Never really have the time to, but this is something that I have a lot of opinions about. I have a lot of feelings about, and I would like to unpack that. Oh no, the pro and noob background's still up. Hold on. Like I said, this is very off the cuff, and I was like, you know what? I'm feeling some kind of way. Let's kind of unpack it together. So, per deadline, from Nelly Andreeva. Exclusive. Story of the Acolyte will not continue, with Lucasfilm opting not to proceed with the second season of the Star Wars offshoot starring Amanda Stenberg, sources tell Deadline. Word of the decision comes more than a month after the 8-episode first season of the series from creator, director, executive producer, and showrunner Leslie Headland wrapped its run on Disney+. The news is not entirely surprising. Acolyte did okay with critics, with a 78% on Rotten Tomatoes, but divided Star Wars fans, which was reflected in its overall viewership. Put a pin in that. Driven by in the interest into the venerable franchise, Acolyte got off to a strong start when it launched on June 4th, with 2 episodes generating 4.8 million views in its first day on the streamer to rank as its biggest series premiere on Disney+. The tally rose to 11.1 million views globally after the first 5 days of streaming. Corroborating Disney's data, the series made its debut on Nielsen's top 10 originals charts in its premiere week at number 7, 488 million minutes viewed, climbing to number 6 the following week. But The Acolyte could not sustain the momentum, dropping out of the top 10 in the week 3 and staying off before returning at number 10 after the release of the finale. 335 million, believed to be the lowest for a Star Wars series finale. Series now. Like global streamers like Netflix and Prime Video, Disney Plus has a high viewership threshold for renewing high-end, big-budget series that cost well above 100 million per season to make. In interviews, Ludland had revealed that she has pitched her ideas for a second season, and she has shared her hopes for a renewal. Lucasfilm's first and most successful to date Disney Plus series, The Mandalorian, is carrying on, crossing over to feature films with the upcoming Mandalorian and Grogu. Ahsoka, the company series that preceded The Acolyte, has been renewed for a second season already. Yeah, the rest of this is stuff you already know if you're watching this video. At the end of the day, it's the entertainment business. To quote the great Joseph Scrimshaw, um, George Lucas did not set up a nonprofit when he created Star Wars, and to act as though money doesn't talk is silly and reductive and ridiculous. Because money is, cash is king with this sort of stuff, right? But I don't think this show got a fair shake. I think that at its core, a lot of that verbiage, like the article said, divided the fans. It didn't. Uh, there are people who are fans of Star Wars, and there are people who are fans of what they think is Star Wars, and sometimes those things overlap, and sometimes they don't. And I've seen, let me put it this way. It's not bad to not have liked this show. That's perfectly fine. If you don't like it, you don't like it. That's fine. It's whatever, man. I think there's a lot of people who didn't give this show a shot because of terrible discourse on the internet. I think there's a lot of people who would have been intrigued by this show who got scared away by the usual suspects. And I think that is a large factor in the in the aggregate here, in the amount of views. If it didn't get enough, if it didn't get watched enough, I think part of that issue is the review bombing, is the constant discourse about how it's ruining this, about how people with the biggest platforms complaining about bad writing and bad characters and not being able to define what the fuck that means. Um, I understand, 78% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not overly impressive. You know, um, I don't I don't blame that. It is what it is. Do I think The Acolyte is the greatest piece of Star Wars media of all time? No. But me personally, and I'm not here to, justify other people's opinions or litigate other people's opinions necessarily. I do think that's important here. But I thought this was really, really good Star Wars. And, or let me rephrase what I said earlier. Do I think The Acolyte is the greatest? No. Do I think it's up there? Yes. Clarify that statement. Um, I found it riveting. Yes, did this show need more time to cook? Yeah, because 8 episodes isn't enough for the story they were trying to tell, and that's business stuff. That is the studio hamstringing this show. Um, I think it could have used at least an extra 2 episodes. An extra 2 episodes with the ability to combine day and night, I think would have been really useful, but we are living in this day and age where the studios are tightening their belts more and more so that they can guarantee bigger and bigger payouts for their big wigs. And people on the ground are losing work because of it. And that frustrates me. And what we're about to see is the worst parts of the internet use this as a victory lap and go, failing Disney, Star Wars, Acolyte canceled after abysmal first season. I can hear all of the buzzwords. We're gonna get a Lucasfilm is in shambles article from fucking Variety next. I'm really disappointed by this. I think right now a show about people who are left behind when the systems when the systems of power, when the bodies of power drop the ball and shit the bed and don't know what they're doing was really powerful. I think a story that engaged with the themes of Star Wars with a critical lens that landed on the purity of Star Wars. It's one of the things I love about The Last Jedi. It's a loving indictment of what Star Wars is about. It goes, it asks the questions of, do we need heroes? Are heroes a good thing to have? Should we fight these evils, this oppression? Should we fight? Should we have heroes who help us fight those causes? And the movie calls all of those things into question very heavily, and by the end of the movie it answers with a resounding yes. And it reminds us what makes those heroes powerful, what makes these legends, these stories, these tales powerful. And the Acolyte did something similar, where it took an institution like the Jedi and it took complicated people within that institution and it held their feet to the fire. And it presented us with the situation, much like the characters in it, to pass judgment on the Jedi, to expect the worst of them and count on those failings. And what the show instead did was, well, no, they failed. It said, yes, they failed. And those failures came at a tremendous cost. But the why of why they made those decisions is just as important as the decisions themselves. And it approached that story with a lot of grace and a lot of nuance, and it managed to, at least in my opinion, do that in a satisfying way over the course of 8 episodes. Where again, I think they could have used some more time with this Jedi versus the Senate plot line. That I think they had to cram a whole lot of character for Senator Raincourt into about 3 lines of dialogue. Which again was thrilling. It was not thrilling necessarily, but like, it was really interesting stuff. Getting to see the beginnings of the Senate wanting a little bit more control of the Jedi Order, and the Jedi Order kind of having to choose whether or not it wants to acquiesce that power or try to share that power. There was really compelling stuff there that made its way onto the cutting room floor because the studios are mandating 8-episode seasons that all have to hit a certain runtime. That's deeply frustrating, in my opinion. It's deeply disappointing. Because again, with an extra episode to explore the Senate intrigue, extra episodes to flesh out Jeki, flesh out Yord, flesh out Chimere, flesh out the twins and Soul, and the Jedi Masters who were kind of on the hit list this season. There was a lot there. And I think with additional seasons of television, this show could have built up a reputation of being the Star Wars show that was the conspiracy thriller that explored the power of the dark side and the rule of 2 era Sith. This show could have had a legacy about being a very unique piece of Star Wars media. And The Acolyte is going to go down for being the show, is going to go down as the show that retconned Coyote-Mundi's birth date. It's going to go down as the show with lesbian space witches. It's going to go down as all of the worst things that we as a fandom, that we pop culturally allowed to dominate the conversation. Because we have allowed the cottage industry of bad faith criticism to dominate pop culture discussion. And that has always been the case. People versus George Lucas, angry review as a genre, cinema sins, and there's a lot of satire mixed in there. A lot of those things started as, oh, isn't this the worst kind of guy? Isn't this the most annoying kind of guy to watch a movie with? A lot of those things started there, and then they became those things. And here we are. A show that did what so many people were asking for. Give us something new. Give us something new and bold. And they did that. And give us something about the Sith. They did that. And give us something in the pre-movie eras. They did that. And it wasn't enough. I really love this show. I did. You can go back and watch all of my coverage of it, the live streams, the reviews. I loved it. Could have used some more episodes. Could have used some more time there. Because again, what's the most unified critique? It's the pacing. I have a hard time blaming Leslie Headland and co. for how weirdly paced the show can be. How weirdly edited the show can be. Because I think that's more to do with business. And 9 times out of 10, when we're doing reviews, I don't care about the business. On this channel, we do news and we do reviews. And when we're doing reviews, which are more like discussions, When we're discussing something, I'm like, let's talk about story, let's talk about character, let's talk about theme, let's talk about metaphor. And when we're talking about news, I care about business. And that's why I like covering the stages of something before it comes out, because we're talking about business, 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 and then we get to it, and then we're only talking about what we have on the page. Because past a certain point, I don't care. That's why there's been less news. That's why there's been more reviews lately. Is because I'm having a harder time giving a damn about the news, because the news is fucking bleak. I don't know anywhere near as much about this industry as a lot of my friends do. And my friends know a lot, have been around for a long time. And every time I hear some of my friends talking about like this industry is in a bad, bad place, they're right. And I did not think that the bad place the industry is in would have found Star Wars and result in this. And again, people don't have to like the show. People don't have to want to watch the show. You'll never convince me that the review bombing isn't part of this. And that now, you know, that Disney made a decision. Disney made a corporate decision. Bottom line stuff. Get it? The optics of it are fucking terrible and are really disheartening. And again, it's on us. It's on us for letting it is on us as fans for letting it get to this point. I don't know what else we can do off the top of my head, but we let this space become a fucking cesspool. And I'm not talking about toxicity, because yeah, it's toxic. You know, people are dicks. But I mean the out and out bigots who have made a career out of hating things before they come out in the most uncharitable, bad faith way they can possibly muster. We let it get to this point. And now we've reached this really weird, like, event horizon where the ethics of canceling a television show have a lot to do with identity politics. The optics of canceling this show, just like Willow, where it's this queer led, incredibly diverse cast, that is the first on the chopping block. And I didn't watch Willow, but that's not a moral judgment. Again, if you didn't watch The Acolyte, it's whatever. If you didn't want to, if you didn't like it, that's fine. But what frustrates me is that this show's legacy doesn't get to be the story it was telling now. It gets to be this, it is going to be by hook or by crook. It does not matter the context. The court of public opinion will be, this was the Star Wars show that was so bad it had to get canceled because of Coyote Mundi and Space Witches and Force Foo and devaluing Anakin and, sexy Sith Lord. Like that is the legacy of this show. And sexy Sith Lord isn't a bad thing. I'm just talking about the people who were super weird about it, and against it in a weird way. That is what the legacy of this show is going to be. Because again, let this show be a sleeper hit. Let this show be something that gets to build and be like, oh, and people are like, hey, we got you, like, we're going to put you on game. Check out the Acolyte. Oh, you like dark side stuff? Check out the Acolyte. Darth Plagueis is in the second season. Darth Plagueis is the big bad of the Acolyte. It's what it could have been. It's what it could have been. But Disney took it out at the knees, and it's deeply disappointing. Deeply disappointing and frustrating that the legacy of this show is not going to be a positive one on the whole. And I hope that, you know, I hope that this is the next Clone Wars, you know, um, that Disney is able to see, hey, people really want this back and give it to us, because this sucks. This really sucks. And, you know, all of the worst people on the internet are going to take this as a big W, because in some ways their campaign worked to get people not to watch this show, because they hated it from day one, because they knew who were in it and they knew who made it. You know, the amount of people making heinous comments about Leslie Headland and the fact that she used to work for Harvey Weinstein as an assistant, as like a PA, implicating her in his crimes, which to my knowledge, there is no money trail there. Um, you know, the racist, misogynistic, homophobic, just nonsense that was lobbed at this show from the very beginning, before the beginning. You know, my girlfriend, one of her coworkers, listens to Glenn fucking Beck all the time, and he was bitching about lesbian space witches. People had it out for this show, and they were never going to let it succeed. And I have a hard time feeling not feeling like they won today, and that we lost. It feels like we lost. So yeah, feeling kind of bleak about this news, and really disappointed. And you know, Star Wars felt like a franchise that once something was here, it was gonna get to kind of play out how it was meant to. It was gonna kind of get to do its thing naturally. Like, we'll do one more season of The Acolyte. We'll pull back the budget, tell the story you need to tell inside of a season, but this is it. At least we would have gotten an ending. You know, doesn't get to happen, and that's weird, and it feels bizarre. And now I'm worried that The Acolyte is going to become lost media. That The Acolyte is going to get the Willow treatment, the Batgirl treatment. Not quite Batgirl, obviously, but the Willow treatment. It was going to be memory hold before anybody can, before there's a Blu-ray. I doubt to high heaven they're gonna waste the money on making a Blu-ray of this show that they had to cancel, much like Willow. But yeah, I'm upset about this one. I'm not looking forward to the discourse, and yeah, I hope the Acolyte is saved, and I hope that this is a swing and a miss on the part of Deadline, because this is deeply disappointing for Light and Life, I guess.